October, 1660. October 1st. Early to my Lord to Whitehall, and there he did give me some work to do for him, and so with all haste to the office. Dined at home, and my father by chance with me. After dinner he and I advised about hangings for my rooms, which are now almost fit to be hung, the painters beginning to do their work to-day. After dinner he and I to the Mitre, where with my uncle Wyatt, whom my father fetched thither, while I drank a glass of wine privately with Mr. Mansell, a poor reformado of the Charles, who came to see me. Here we stayed and drank 3 or 4 pints of wine, and so parted. I home to look after my workmen, and at night to bed. The Commissioners are very busy disbanding of the army, which they say do cause great robbing. My layings out upon my house and furniture are so great, that I fear I shall not be able to go through them without breaking one of my bags of £100, I having but £200 yet in the world. 2nd. With Sir William Pen by water to Whitehall, being this morning visited before I went out by my brother Tom, who told me that for his lying out of doors a day and a night, my father had forbade him to come any more into his house, at which I was troubled, and did soundly chide him for doing so, and upon confessing his fault I told him I would speak to my father. At Whitehall I met with Captain Clark, and took him to the Leg in King Street, and did give him a dish or 2 of meat, and his purser that was with him, for his old kindness to be on board. After dinner I to Whitehall, where I met with Mrs. Hunt, and was forced to wait upon Mr. Cavern at a committee to speak for her husband, which I did. After that met with Llewellyn, Mr. Fage, and took them both to the Dog, and did give them a glass of wine. After that at Will's I met with Mr. Spicer, and with him to the Abbey to see them at Vespers. There I found but a thin congregation already. So I see that religion, be it what it will, is but a humour. And so the esteem of it passeth, as other things do. From thence with him to see Robin Shaw, who has been a long time ill, and I have not seen him since I came from sea. He is much changed, but in hopes to be well again. From thence by coach to my father's, and discoursed with him about Tom, and did give my advice to take him home again, which I think he will do in prudence, rather than put him upon learning the way of being worse. So home, and from home to Major Hart, who is just going out of town to-morrow, and made much of me, and did give me the oaths of supremacy and allegiance, that I may be capable of my arrears. So home again, where my wife tells me what she has bought to-day, namely, a bed and furniture for her chamber, with which very well pleased I went to bed. 3rd. With Sir W. Batten and Pen by water to Whitehall, where a meeting of the Dukes of York and Albemarle, my Lord Sandwich and all the principal officers, about the winter guard, but we determined of nothing. To my Lord's, who sent a great iron chest to Whitehall, and I saw it carried into the King's closet, where I saw most incomparable pictures. Among the rest a book open upon a desk, which I durst have sworn was a real book, and back again to my Lord, and dined all alone with him, who did treat me with a great deal of respect, and after dinner did discourse an hour with me, and advise about some way to get himself some money to make up for all his great expenses, saying that he believed that he might have anything that he would ask of the King. This day Mr. Shepley and all my Lord's goods came from sea, some of them laid of the wardrobe, and some brought to my Lord's house. From thence to our office, where we met and did business, and so home and spent the evening looking upon the painters that are at work in my house. This day I heard the Duke speak of a great design that he and my Lord of Pembroke have, and a great many others, of sending a venture to some parts of Africa to dig for gold ore there. They intend to admit as many as will venture their money, and so make themselves a company. £250 is the lowest share for every man. But I do not find that my Lord do much like it. At night Dr. Fairbrother, for so he is lately made of the civil law, brought home my wife by coach, it being rainy weather, she having been abroad to-day to buy more furniture for her house. 4th. This morning I was busy looking over papers at the office all alone, and being visited by Lieutenant Lambert of the Charles, to whom I was formerly much beholden, I took him along with me to a little alehouse hard by our office, whither my cousin Thomas Pepys, the turner, had sent for me to show me 2 gentlemen that had a great desire to be known to me, one his name is Pepys, of our family, but one that I never heard of before, and the other a younger son of Sir Tom Bendish's, and so we all call cousins. After sitting a while in drinking, my 2 new cousins, myself, and Lieutenant Lambert went by water to Whitehall, and from thence I and Lieutenant Lambert to Westminster Abbey, where we saw Dr. Frewen translated to the Archbishopric of York. Here I saw the Bishops of Winchester, Bangor, Rochester, Bath and Wells, and Salisbury, all in their habits, in King Henry the Seventh's chapel. But, Lord, their going out! How people did most of them look upon them as strange creatures, and few with any kind of love or respect. From thence at 2 to my Lord's, where we took Mr. Shepley and William Howe to the Reindeer, and had some oysters, which were very good, the first I have eat this year. So back to my Lord's to dinner, and after dinner Lieutenant Lambert and I did look upon my Lord's model, and he told me many things in a ship that I desired to understand. From thence by water I, leaving Lieutenant Lambert at Blackfriars, went home, and there by promise met with Robert Shaw and Jack Spicer, who came to see me, and by the way I met upon Tower Hill with Mr. Pierce the surgeon and his wife, and took them home and did give them good wine, ale, and anchovies, and stayed them till night, and so adieu. Then to look upon my painters that are now at work in my house. At night to bed. 5th. Office day. Dined at home, and all the afternoon at home to see my painters make an end of their work, which they did to-day to my content, and I am in great joy to see my house likely once again to be clean. At night to bed. 6th. Colonel Slingsby and I at the office getting a catch ready for the Prince de Ligne to carry his things away to-day, who is now going home again. About noon comes my cousin H. Alcock, for whom I brought a letter for my Lord to sign to my Lord Broghill, for some preferment in Ireland, whither he is now a-going. After him comes Mr. Creed, who brought me some books from Holland with him, well bound and good books, which I thought he did intend to give me, but I found that I must pay him. He dined with me at my house, and from thence to Whitehall together, where I was to give my Lord an account of the stations and victuals of the fleet, in order to the choosing of a fleet fit for him to take to sea, to bring over the Queen, but my Lord not coming in before 9 at night, I stayed no longer for him, but went back again home, and so to bed. 7th. Lord's day. To Whitehall on foot, calling at my father's to change my long black cloak for a short one, long cloaks being now quite out. But he being gone to church, I could not get one, and therefore I proceeded on, and came to my Lord before he went to chapel, and so went with him, where I heard Dr. Spurstow preach before the King a poor dry sermon, but a very good anthem of Captain Cook's afterwards. Going out of chapel I met with Jack Cole, my old friend, whom I had not seen a great while before, and had promised to renew acquaintance in London together. To my Lord's and dined with him, he all dinner time talking French to me, and telling me the story how the Duke of York hath got my Lord Chancellor's daughter with child, and that she do lay it to him, and that for certain he did promise her marriage, and had signed it with his blood, but that he by stealth had got the paper out of her cabinet, and that the King would have him to marry her, but that he will not. So that the thing is very bad for the Duke and them all, but my Lord do make light of it, as a thing that he believes is not a new thing for the Duke to do abroad. Discoursing concerning what if the Duke should marry her, my Lord told me that among his father's many old sayings that he had wrote in a book of his, this is one, that he that do get a wench with child and marry her afterwards, is as if a man should in his hat, and then clap it on his head. I perceive my Lord is grown a man very indifferent in all matters of religion, and so makes nothing of these things. After dinner to the Abbey, where I heard them read the church service, but very ridiculously, that indeed I do not in myself like it at all. A poor cold sermon of Dr. Lamb's, one of the prebends, in his habit, came afterwards, and so all ended, and by my troth a pitiful sorry devotion that these men pay. So walked home by land, and before supper I read part of the Marian persecution in Mr. Fuller. So to supper, prayers, and to bed. 8th. Office day, and my wife being gone out to buy some household stuff, I dined all alone, and after dinner to Westminster. In my way meeting Mr. Moore coming to me, who went back again with me, calling at several places about business, at my father's about gilded leather for my dining room, at Mr. Crew's about money, at my Lord's about the same, but meeting not Mr. Shepley there, I went home by water, and Mr. Moore with me, who stayed and supped with me till almost 9 at night. We love one another's discourse so that we cannot part when we do meet. He tells me that the profit of the Privy Seal is much fallen, for which I am very sorry. He gone, and I to bed. 9th. This morning Sir W. Batten with Colonel Birch to Deptford, to pay off 2 ships. Sir W. Pen and I stayed to do business, and afterwards together to Whitehall, where I went to my Lord, and found him in bed not well, and saw in his chamber his picture, very well done, and am with child till I get it copied out, which I hope to do when he is gone to sea. To Whitehall again, where at Mr. Coventry's chamber I met with Sir W. Pen again, and so with him to Redriff by water, and from thence walked over the fields to Deptford, the first pleasant walk I have had a great while, and in our way had a great deal of merry discourse, and find him to be a merry fellow and pretty good natured, and sings very bawdy songs. So we came and found our gentleman and Mr. Prynne at the Pay. About noon we dined together, and were very merry at table telling of tales. After dinner to the pay of another ship till 10 at night, and so home in our barge, a clear moonshine night, and it was 12 o'clock before we got home, where I found my wife in bed, and part of our chambers hung to-day by the upholster, but not being well done I was fretted, and so in a discontent to bed. I found Mr. Prynne a good, honest, plain man, but in his discourse not very free or pleasant. Among all the tales that passed among us to day, he told us of one Damford that, being a black man, did scald his beard with mince pie, and it came up again all white in that place, and continued to his dying day. Sir W. Pen told us a good jest about some gentleman blinding of the drawer, and who he catch was to pay the reckoning, and so they got away, and the master of the house coming up to see what his man did, his man got hold of him, thinking it to be one of the gentlemen, and told him that he was to pay the reckoning. 10th. Office day all the morning. In the afternoon with the upholster, seeing him do things to my mind, and to my content he did fit my chamber and my wife's. At night comes Mr. Moore, and stayed late with me, to tell me how Sir Hardress Waller, who only pleads guilty, Scott, Coke, Peters, Harrison, etc., were this day arraigned at the bar at the Sessions House, there being upon the bench the Lord Mayor, General Monk, my Lord of Sandwich, etc., such a bench of noblemen as had not been ever seen in England. They all seem to be dismayed, and will all be condemned without question. In Sir Orlando Bridgman's charge, he did wholly rip up the unjustness of the war against the King from the beginning, and so it much reflects upon all the Long Parliament, though the King had pardoned them, yet they must hereby confess that the King do look upon them as traitors. Tomorrow they are to plead what they have to say. At night to bed. 11th. In the morning to my Lord's, where I met with Mr. Creed, and with him and Mr. Blackburn to the Rhenish wine-house, where we sat drinking of healths a great while, a thing which Mr. Blackburn formerly would not upon any terms have done. After we had done there, Mr. Creed and I to the Leg in King Street to dinner, where he and I and my Will had a good udder to dinner, and from thence to walk in St. James's Park, where we observed the several engines at work to draw up water, with which sight I was very much pleased. Above all the rest, I like best that which Mr. Greatorex brought, which is one round thing going within all with a pair of stairs round which being laid at an angle of 45 degrees, do carry up the water with a great deal of ease. Here in the park we met with Mr. Salisbury, who took Mr. Creed and me to the cockpit to see the Moor of Venice, which was well done. Burt acted the Moor. By the same token, a very pretty lady that sat by me called out to see Desdemona smothered. From thence with Mr. Creed to Hercules Pillars, where we drank and so parted, and I went home. 12th. Office day all the morning, and from thence with Sir W. Batten and the rest of the officers to a venison pasty of his at the Dolphin, where dined withal Colonel Washington, Sir Edward Brett, and Major Norwood, very noble company. After dinner I went home, where I found Mr. Cooke, who told me that my Lady Sandwich is come to town to-day, whereupon I went to Westminster to see her, and found her at supper, so she made me sit down all alone with her, and after supper staid and talked with her, she showing me most extraordinary love and kindness, and to give me good assurance of my uncle's resolution to make me his heir. From thence home and to bed. 13th. To my Lord's in the morning, where I met with Captain Cuttance, but my Lord not being up I went out to Charing Cross, to see Major General Harrison hanged, drawn, and quartered, which was done there, he looking as cheerful as any man could do in that condition. He was presently cut down, and his head and heart shown to the people, at which there was great shouts of joy. It is said that he was sure to come shortly at the right hand of Christ, to judge them that now had judged him, and that his wife do expect his coming again. Thus it was my chance to see the King beheaded at Whitehall, and to see the first blood shed in revenge for the blood of the King at Charing Cross. From thence to my Lord's, and took Captain Cuttance and Mr. Shepley to the Sun Tavern, and did give them some oysters. After that I went by water home, where I was angry with my wife for her things lying about, and in my passion kicked the little fine basket, which I bought her in Holland, and broke it, which troubled me after I had done it. Within all the afternoon setting up shelves in my study. At night to bed. 14th. Lord's day. Early to my Lord's. In my way meeting with Dr. Fairbrother, who walked with me to my father's back again, and there we drank my morning draught, my father having gone to church, and my mother asleep in bed. Here he caused me to put my hand among a great many honourable hands to a paper or certificate in his behalf. To Whitehall Chapel, where one Dr. Cross made an indifferent sermon, and after it an anthem ill sung, which made the King laugh. Here I first did see the Princess Royal since she came into England. Here I also observed how the Duke of York and Mrs. Palmer did talk to one another very wantonly through the hangings that parts the King's closet, and the closet where the ladies sit. To my Lord's, where I found my wife, and she and I did dine with my Lady, my Lord dining with my Lord Chamberlain, who did treat my wife with a good deal of respect. In the evening we went home through the rain by water in a sculler, having borrowed some coats of Mr. Shepley. So home, wet and dirty, and to bed. 15th. Office all the morning. My wife and I by water. I landed her at Whitefriars. She went to my father's to dinner, it being my father's wedding day. there being a very great dinner, and only the Fennis and Joyces there. This morning Mr. Carew was hanged and quartered at Charing Cross, but his quarters, by a great favour, are not to be hanged up. I was forced to go to my Lord's to get him to meet the officers of the Navy this afternoon, and so could not go along with her, but I missed my Lord, who was this day upon the bench at the Sessions House. So I dined there and went to Whitehall, where I met with Sir W. Batten and Pen, who with the Comptroller, Treasurer, and Mr. Coventry, at his chamber, made up a list of such ships as are fit to be kept out for the winter guard, and the rest to be paid off by the Parliament when they can get money, which I doubt will not be a great while. That done, I took coach and called my wife at my father's, and so homewards, calling at Thomas Pepys the turner's for some things that we wanted. And so home, where I fell to read The Fruitless Precaution, a book formerly recommended by Dr. Clarke at sea to me, which I read in bed till I had made an end of it, and do find it the best writ tale that ever I read in my life. After that done, to sleep, which I did not very well do, because that my wife having a stopping in her nose, she snored much, which I never did hear her do before. 16th. This morning my brother Tom came to me, with whom I made even for my last clothes to this day, and having eaten a dish of anchovies with him in the morning, my wife and I did intend to go forth to see a play at the Cockpit this afternoon, but Mr. Moore coming to me, my wife stayed at home, and he and I went out together, with whom I called at the upholster's, and several other places that I had business with, and so home with him to the Cockpit, where, understanding that Wit without Money was acted, I would not stay, but went home by water, by the way reading of the other 2 stories that are in the book that I read last night, which I do not like so well as it. Being come home, Will told me that my Lord had a mind to speak with me to-night. So I returned by water, and coming there, it was only to inquire how the ships were provided with victuals that are to go with him to fetch over the Queen, which I gave him a good account of. He seemed to be in a melancholy humour, which I was told by W. Howe was for that he had lately lost a great deal of money at cards, which he fears he do too much addict himself to nowadays. So home by water and to bed. 17th, Office day. At noon came Mr. Creed to me, whom I took along with me to the Feathers in Fish Street, where I was invited by Captain Cuttance to dinner, a dinner made by Mr. Dawes and his brother. We had 2 or 3 dishes of meat, well done. Their great design was to get me concerned in a business of theirs about a vessel of theirs that is in the service, hired by the King, in which I promise to do them all the service I can. From thence home again with Mr. Crew, where I finding Mrs. Thea Turner and her Aunt Duke, I would not be seen, but walked in the garden till they were gone, when Mr. Spong came to me and Mr. Creed. Mr. Spong and I went to our music to sing, and he being gone, my wife and I went to put up my books in order in closet, and I to give her her books. After that to bed. 18th. This morning, it being expected that Colonel Hacker and Axtell should die, I went to Newgate, but found they were reprieved till tomorrow. So to my Aunt Fenner's, where with her and my uncle I drank my morning draught. So to my father's, and did give orders for a pair of black baize linings to be made me for my breeches against tomorrow morning, which was done. So to my Lord's, where I spoke with my Lord, and he would have had me dine with him, but I went thence to Mr. Blackburn, where I met my wife and my Will's father and mother, the first time that ever I saw them, where we had a very fine dinner. Mr. Creed was also there. This day, by her high discourse, I found Mrs. Blackburn to be a very high dame, and a costly one. Home with my wife by coach. This afternoon comes Mr. Chaplin and N. Osborne to my house, of whom I made very much, and kept them with me till late, and so to bed. At my coming home, I did find that Thea Turner has sent for a pair of doves that my wife had promised her, and because she did not send them in the best cage, she sent them back again with a scornful letter, with which I was angry, but yet pretty well pleased that she was crossed. 19th. Office in the morning. This morning my dining room was finished with green serge hanging and gilt leather, which is very handsome. This morning Hacker and Axtell were hanged and quartered, as the rest are. This night I sat up late to make up my accounts ready against tomorrow for my Lord. I found him to be above £80 in my debt, which is a good sight, and I bless God for it. 20th. This morning one came to me to advise with me where to make me a window into my cellar, in lieu of one which Sir W. Batten had stopped up. And going down into my cellar to look, I stepped into a great heap of, by which I found that Mr. Turner's house of office is full, and comes into my cellar, which do trouble me, but I shall have it helped. To my Lord's by land, calling at several places about business, where I dined with my Lord and Lady, when he was very merry, and did talk very high, how he would have a French cook, and a master of his horse, and his lady and child to wear black patches, which methought was strange, but he is become a perfect courtier. And among other things, my lady saying that she could get a good merchant for her daughter Jem, he answered, that he would rather see her with a pedlar's pack at her back, so she married a gentleman, than she should marry a citizen. This afternoon, going through London and calling at Crow's the upholsterers in St. Bartholomew's, I saw the limbs of some of our new traitors set upon Aldersgate, which was a sad sight to see, and a bloody week this and the last have been, there being 10 hanged, drawn, and quartered. Home, and after writing a letter to my uncle by the post, I went to bed. 21st, Lord's Day. To the parish church in the morning, where a good sermon by Mr. Mills. After dinner to my Lord's, and from thence to the Abbey, where I met Spicer and D. Vines and others of the old crew. So leaving my boy at the Abbey against I came back, we went to Prior's by the hall back door. But there being no drink to be had, we went away, and so to the Crown in the Palace yard, I and George Vines by the way calling at their house, where he carried me up to the top of his turret, where there is Cook's Head set up for a traitor, and Harrison set up on the other side of Westminster Hall. Here I could see them plainly, as also a very fair prospect about London. From the Crown to the Abbey to look for my boy, but he was gone thence, and so he being a novice, I was at a loss what was become of him. I called at my Lord's, where I found Mr. Adams, Mr. Shepley's friend, and at my father's, but found him not. So home, where I found him, but he had found the way home well enough, of which I was glad. So after supper, and reading of some chapters, I went to bed. This day or two my wife has been troubled with her boils in the old place, which do much trouble her. To-day at noon, God forgive me, I strung my lute, which I had not touched a great while before. 22nd, Office Day. After that to dinner at home upon some ribs of roast beef from the cook's, which of late we have been forced to do because of our house being always under the painters' and other people's hands, that we could not dress it ourselves. After dinner to my Lord's, where I found all preparing for my Lord's going to sea, to fetch the Queen to-morrow. At night my Lord came home, with whom I stayed long, and talked of many things. Among others, I got leave to have his picture that was done by Lilly copied, and talking of religion, I found him to be a perfect sceptic, and said that all things would not be well while there was so much preaching, and that it would be better if nothing but homilies were to be read in churches. This afternoon, he told me, there hath been a meeting before the King and my Lord Chancellor, of some Episcopalian and Presbyterian divines, but what had passed he could not tell me. After I had done talk with him, I went to bed with Mr. Shepley in his chamber, but could hardly get any sleep all night, the bed being ill made, and he a bad bedfellow. 23rd. We rose early in the morning to get things ready for my Lord, and Mr. Shepley going to put up his pistols, which were charged with bullets, into the holsters, one of them flew off, and it pleased God that, the mouth of the gun being downwards, it did us no hurt, but I think I never was in more danger in my life, which put me into a great fright. About 8 o'clock my Lord went, and going through the garden, my Lord met with Mr. William Montague, who told him of an estate of land lately come into the King's hands, that he had a mind my Lord should beg, to which end my Lord writ a letter presently to my Lord Chancellor to do it for him, which, after leave taken of my Lord at Whitehall Bridge, I did carry to Warwick House to him, and had a fair promise of him that he would do it this day for my Lord. In my way thither I met the Lord Chancellor and all the judges riding on horseback, and going to Westminster Hall, it being the first day of the term, which was the first time I ever saw any such solemnity. Having done there, I returned to Whitehall, where meeting with my brother Ashwell and his cousin Sam Ashwell and Mr. Mallard, I took them to the Leg in King Street, and gave them a dish of meat for dinner, and paid for it. From thence going to Whitehall, I met with Caton Sturpin in mourning, who told me that her mistress was lately dead of the smallpox, and that herself was now married to Monsieur Petit, as also what her mistress had left her, which was very well. She also took me to her lodging at an ironmonger's in King Street, which was but very poor, and I found by a letter that she shewed me of her husband's to the King, that he is a ripe Frenchman, and full of their own projects, he having a design to reform the universities, and to institute schools for the learning of all languages, to speak them naturally and not by rule, which I know will come to nothing. From thence to my Lord's, where I went forth by coach to Mrs. Parker's with my lady, and so to her house again. From thence I took my Lord's picture, and carried it to Mr. de Cretz to be copied. So to Whitehall, where I met Mr. Spong, and went home with him and played, and sang, and eat with him and his mother. After supper we looked over many books and instruments of his, especially his wooden jack in his chimney, which goes with the smoke, which indeed is very pretty. I found him to be as ingenious and good-natured a man as ever I met with in my life, and cannot admire him enough, he being so plain and illiterate a man as he is. From thence by coach home and to bed, which was welcome to me after a night's absence. 24th. I lay and slept long to-day, Office Day. I took occasion to be angry with my wife before I rose about her putting up of half a crown of mine in a paper box, which she had forgot where she had lain it, But we were friends again, as we are always. Then I rose to Jack Cole, who came to see me. Then to the office, so home to dinner, where I found Captain Murford, who did put £3 into my hands for a friendship I had done him, but I would not take it, but bade him keep it till he has enough to buy my wife a necklace. This afternoon people at work in my house to make a light in my yard into my cellar. To Whitehall, in my way met with Mr. Moore, who went back with me. He tells me, among other things, that the Duke of York is now sorry for his lying with my Lord Chancellor's daughter, who is now brought to bed of a boy. From Whitehall to Mr. de Cretz, who I found about my Lord's picture. From thence to Mr. Lilly's, where, not finding Mr. Spong, I went to Mr. Greatorex, where I met him, and so to an alehouse, where I bought of him a drawing pen, and he did show me the manner of the lamp glasses, which carry the light a great way, good to read in bed by, and I intend to have one of them. So to Mr. Lilly's with Mr. Spong, where well received, there being a club to-night among his friends. Among the rest, Esquire Ashmole, who I found was a very ingenious gentleman. With him we two sang afterward in Mr. Lilly's study. That done, we all paired, and I home by coach, taking Mr. Booker with me, who did tell me a great many fooleries, which may be done by nativities, and blaming Mr. Lilly for writing to please his friends, and to keep in with the times, as he did formerly to his own dishonour, and not according to the rules of art, by which he could not well err, as he had done. I set him down at Lime Street End, and so home, where I found a box of carpenter's tools sent by my cousin Thomas Pepys, which I had bespoke of him for to employ myself with sometimes. To bed. 25th. All day at home doing something in order to the fitting of my house. In the evening to Westminster about business, so home and to bed. This night the vault at the end of the cellar was emptied. 26th. Office. My father and Dr. Thomas Pepys dined at my house, the last of whom I did almost fox with Margate ale. My father is mightily pleased with my ordering of my house. I did give him money to pay several bills. After that I to Westminster to Whitehall, where I saw the Duke de Soissons go from his audience with a very great deal of state. His own coach all red velvet covered with gold lace, and drawn by 6 barbs, and attended by 20 pages very rich in clothes. To Westminster Hall, and bought, among other books, one of the Life of our Queen, which I read at home to my wife, but it was so sillily writ that we did nothing but laugh at it. Among other things, it is dedicated to that paragon of virtue and beauty, the Duchess of Albemarle. Great talk as if the Duke of York do now own the marriage between him and the Chancellor's daughter. 27th. In London and Westminster, all this day paying of money and buying of things for my house. In my going I went by chance by my new Lord Mayor's house, Sir Richard Browne, by Goldsmith's Hall, which is now fitting, and indeed is a very pretty house. In coming back I called at Paul's Churchyard, and bought Alsted's Encyclopedia, which cost me 38s. Home and to bed, my wife being much troubled with her old pain. 28th. Lord's day. There came some pills and plaster this morning from Dr. Williams for my wife. I to Westminster Abbey, where with much difficulty, going round by the cloisters, I got in, this day being a great day for the consecrating of 5 bishops, which was done after sermon, but I could not get into Henry VII's chapel. So I went to my Lord's, where I dined with my Lady, and my young Lord, and Mr. Sidney, who was sent for from Twickenham, to see my Lord Mayor's show to-morrow. Mr. Child did also dine with us. After dinner to Whitehall Chapel, my Lady and my Lady Jemima and I up to the King's Closet, who is now gone to meet the Queen. So meeting with one Mr. Hill, that did know my Lady, he did take us into the King's Closet, and there we did stay all service time, which I did think a great honour. We went home to my Lord's lodgings afterwards, and there I parted with my Lady and went home, where I did find my wife pretty well after her physic. So to bed. 29th. I up early, it being my Lord Mayor's day, Sir Richard Browne, and neglecting my office, I went to the wardrobe, where I met my Lady Sandwich and all the children. And after drinking of some strange and incomparable good claret of Mr. Rumble's, he and Mr. Townsend did take us, and set the young lords at one Mr. Neville's, a draper in Paul's Churchyard, and my Lady and my Lady Pickering and I to one Mr. Isaacson's, a linen draper at the Quay in Cheapside, where there was a company of fine ladies, and we were very civilly treated, and had a very good place to see the pageants, which were many, and I believe good for such kind of things, but in themselves but poor and absurd. After the ladies were placed, I took Mr. Townsend and Isaacson to the next door, a tavern, and did spend 5s. upon them. The show being done, we got as far as Paul's with much ado, where I left my Lady in the coach, and went on foot with my Lady Pickering to her lodging, which was a poor one in Blackfriars, where she never invited me to go in at all, which methought was very strange for her to do. So home, where I was told how my Lady Davis is now come to our next lodgings, and has locked up the leads door from me, which puts me into so great a disquiet that I went to bed, and could not sleep till morning at it. 30th. Within all the morning, and dined at home, my mind being so troubled that I could not mind nor do anything till I spoke with the comptroller to whom the lodgings belong. In the afternoon, to ease my mind, I went to the Cockpit all alone, and there saw a very fine play called The Tamer Tamed, very well acted. That being done, I went to Mr. Crew's, where I had left my boy, and so with him and Mr. Moore, who would go a little way with me home, as he will always do, to the Hercules Pillars to drink, where we did read over the King's declaration in matters of religion, which is come out to-day, which is very well penned, I think to the satisfaction of most people. So home, where I am told Mr. Davis's people have broken open the bolt of my chamber door that goes upon the leads, which I went up to see and did find it so, which did still trouble me more and more. And so I sent for Griffith and got him to search their house to see what the meaning of it might be, but can learn nothing to-night. But I am a little pleased that I have found this out. I hear nothing yet of my lord, whether he be gone for the Queen from the Downs or no, but I believe he is, and that he is now upon coming back again. 31st. Office day. Much troubled all this morning in my mind about the business of my walk on the leads. I spoke of it to the comptroller and the rest of the principal officers, who are all unwilling to meddle in anything that may anger my Lady Davis, and so I am fain to give over for the time that she do continue therein. Dined at home, and after dinner to Westminster Hall, where I met with Billing the Quaker at Mrs. Mitchell's shop, who is still of the former opinion he was of against the clergymen of all sorts, and a cunning fellow I find him to be. Home, and there I had news that Sir W. Pen is resolved to ride to Sir W. Batten's country house to-morrow, and would have me go with him, so I sat up late, getting together my things to ride in, and was fain to cut an old pair of boots to make leathers for those I was to wear. This month I conclude with my mind very heavy for the loss of the leads, as also for the greatness of my late expenses, insomuch that I do not think that I have above £150 clear money in the world, but I have, I believe, got a great deal of good household stuff. I hear to-day that the Queen is landed at Dover, and will be here on Friday next, November 2nd. My wife has been so ill of late of her old pain that I have not known her this fortnight almost, which is a pain to me. End of October. November 1660. November 1st. This morning Sir W. Pen and I were mounted early, and had very merry discourse all the way, he being very good company. We came to Sir W. Batten's, where he lives like a prince, and we were made very welcome. Among other things, he showed us my lady's closet, where was great store of rarities, as also a chair, which he calls King Harry's chair, where he that sits down is catch with 2 irons that come round about him, which makes good sport. Here dined with us 2 or 3 more country gentlemen, among the rest Mr. Christmas, my old schoolfellow, with whom I had much talk. He did remember that I was a great roundhead when I was a boy, and I was much afraid that he would have remembered the words that I said the day the King was beheaded, that, were I to preach upon him, my text should be, "The memory of the wicked shall rot." But I found afterwards that he did go away from school before that time. He did make us good sport in imitating Mr. Case, Ash, and Nye, the ministers, which he did very well, but a deadly drinker he is, and grown exceeding fat. From his house to an alehouse near the church, where we sat and drank and were merry, and so we mounted for London again, Sir W. Batten with us. We called at Bow and drank there, and took leave of Mr. Johnson of Blackwall, who dined with us, and rode with us thus far. So home by moonlight, it being about 9 o'clock before we got home. 2nd. Office. Then dined at home, and by chance Mr. Holliard called at dinner time and dined with me, with whom I had great discourse concerning the cure of the King's evil, which he do deny altogether any effect at all. In the afternoon I went forth and saw some silver bosses put upon my new Bible, which cost me 6s. 6d. the making, and 7s. 6d. the silver, which with 9s. 6d. the book, comes in all to £1 3s. 6d. From thence with Mr. Cook that made them, and Mr. Stevens the silversmith, to the tavern, and did give them a pint of wine. So to Whitehall, where when I came I saw the boats going very thick to Lambeth, and all the stairs to be full of people. I was told the Queen was a-coming, so I got a sculler for 6d. to carry me thither and back again, but I could not get to see the Queen. So come back and to my Lord's, where he was come, and I supped with him, he being very merry, telling merry stories of the country mayors, how they entertained the King all the way as he come along, and how the country gentlewomen did hold up their heads to be kissed by the King, not taking his hand to kiss as they should do. I took leave of my Lord and Lady, and so took coach at Whitehall, and carried Mr. Child as far as the Strand, and myself got as far as Ludgate by all the bonfires, but with a great deal of trouble, and there the coachman desired that I would release him, for he durst not go further for the fires. So he would have had a shilling or sixpence for bringing of me so far, but I had but threepence about me, and did give him it. In Paul's churchyard I called it curtains, and there they'd got a mass book for me, which I bought, and cost me 12 shillings. And when I came home, sat up late and read in it with great pleasure to my wife, to hear that she was long ago so well acquainted with. So to bed. I observed this night very few bonfires in the city, not above 3 in all London, for the Queen's coming, whereby I guess that, as I believed before, her coming do please but very few. 3rd. Saturday. At home all the morning. In the afternoon to Whitehall, where my Lord and Lady were gone to kiss the Queen's hand. To Westminster Hall, where I met with Tom Doling, and we two took Mrs. Lane to the alehouse, where I made her angry with commending of Tom Newton and her new sweetheart to be both too good for her, so that we parted with much anger, which made Tom and me good sport. So home to write letters by the post, and so to bed. 4th. Lord's Day. In the morn to our own church, where Mr. Mills did begin to nibble at the common prayer by saying, Glory be to the Father, etc., after he had read the 2 psalms, but the people had been so little used to it, that they could not tell what to answer. This declaration of the King's to give the Presbyterians some satisfaction, and a pretence to read the common prayer, which they would not do before, because of their former preaching against it. After dinner to Westminster, where I went to my Lord's, and having spoke with him, I went to the Abbey, where the first time that ever I heard the organs in a cathedral. Thence to my Lord's, where I found Mr. Pierce the surgeon, and with him and Mr. Shepley, in our way calling at the Bell to see the 7 Flanders mares that my Lord has bought lately, where we drank several bottles of Hull ale. Much company I found to come to her, and cannot wonder at it, for she is very pretty and wanton. Hence to my father's, where I found my mother in greater and greater pain of the stone. I stayed long and drank with them, and so home and to bed. My wife seemed very pretty to-day, it being the first time I had given her leave to wear a black patch. 5th. Office day. Being disappointed of money, we failed of going to Deptford to pay off the Henrietta to-day. Dined at home, and at home all day, and at the office at night, to make up an account of what the debts of 19 of the 25 ships that should have been paid off is increased since the adjournment of the Parliament, they being to sit again to-morrow. This 5th of November is observed exceeding well in the city, and at night great bonfires and fireworks. At night Mr. Moore came and sat with me, and there I took a book, and he did instruct me in many law notions, in which I took great pleasure. To bed. 6th. In the morning with Sir W. Batten and Pen by water to Westminster, where at my Lord's I met with Mr. Creed. With him to see my Lord's picture, now almost done, and thence to Westminster Hall, where we found the Parliament met to-day, and thence meeting with Mr. Chetwynd, I took them to the Sun, and did give them a barrel of oysters, and had good discourse. Among other things, Mr. Chetwynd told me how he did fear that this late business of the Duke of York's would prove fatal to my Lord Chancellor. From thence Mr. Creed and I to Wilkinson's, and dined together, and in great haste thence to our office, where we met all, for the sale of 2 ships by an inch of candle, the first time that ever I saw any of this kind, where I observed how they do invite one another, and at last how they all do cry. And we have much to do to tell who did cry last. The ships were the Indian, sold for £1,300, and the Half Moon, sold for £830. Home, and fell a reading of the trials of the late men that were hanged for the King's death, and found good satisfaction in reading thereof. At night to bed, and my wife and I did fall out about the dog's being put down into the cellar, which I had a mind to have done because of his fouling the house, and I would have my will, and so we went to bed, and lay all night in a quarrel. This night I was troubled all night with a dream that my wife was dead, which made me that I slept ill all night. 7th. Office day. This day my father came to dine at my house, but being sent for in the morning I could not stay, but went by water to my Lord, where I dined with him, and he in a very merry humour, present Mr. Borfett and child, at dinner. He, in discourse of the great opinion of the virtue, gratitude, which he did account the greatest thing in the world to him, and had therefore in his mind been often troubled in the late times how to answer his gratitude to the King, who raised his father, did say it was that did bring him to his obedience to the King, and did also bless himself with his good fortune, in comparison to what it was when I was with him in the Sound, when he does not own his correspondence with the King, which is a thing that I never did hear of to this day before, and I do from this raise an opinion of him to be one of the most secret men in the world, which I was not so convinced of before. After dinner he bid all go out of the room, and did tell me how the King had promised him £4,000 per annum for ever, and had already given him a bill under his hand, which he showed me, for £4,000 that Mr. Fox is to pay him. My Lord did advise with me how to get this received, and to put out £3,000 into safe hands at use, and the other he will make use of for his present occasion. This he did advise with me about with much secrecy. After all this, he called for the fiddles and books, and we two, and W. Howe and Mr. Child, did sing and play some psalms of Will Lawes, and some songs, and so I went away. So I went to see my Lord's picture, which is almost done, and do please me very well. Hence to Whitehall to find out Mr. Fox, which I did, and did use me very civilly, but I did not see his lady, whom I had so long known when she was a maid, Mrs. Whittle. From thence, meeting my father Bowyer, I took him to Mr. Harper's, and there drank with him. Among other things in discourse, he told me how my wife's brother had a horse at grass with him, which I was troubled to hear, it being his boldness upon my score. Home by coach, and read late in the last night's book of trials, and told my wife about her brother's horse at Mr. Bowyer's, who is also much trouble for it, and do intend to go to-morrow to inquire the truth. Notwithstanding this was the first day of the King's proclamation against hackney coaches coming into the streets to stand to be hired, yet I got one to carry me home. 8th. This morning Sir William and the Treasurer and I went by barge with Sir William Doyley and Mr. Prynne to Deptford to pay off the Henrietta, and had a good dinner. I went to Mr. Davis and saw his house, where I was once before a great while ago, and I found him a very pretty man. In the afternoon Commissioner Pett and I went on board the yacht, which indeed is one of the finest things that ever I saw for neatness and room in so small a vessel. Mr. Pett is to make one to outdo this for the honour of his country, which I fear he will scarce better. From thence with him as far as Ratcliffe, where I left him going by water to London, and I, unwilling to leave the rest of the officers, went back again to Deptford, and being very much troubled with a sudden looseness, I went into a little alehouse at the end of Ratcliffe, and did give a groat for a pot of ale, and there I did. So went forward in my walk with some men that were going that way a great pace, and in our way we met with many merry seamen that had got their money paid them to-day. We sat very late doing the work and waiting for the tide. It being moonshine, we got to London before 2 in the morning. So home, where I found my wife up. She shewed me her head, which was very well dressed to-day, she having been to see her father and mother. So to bed. 9th. Lay long in bed this morning, though an office day, because of our going to bed late last night. Before I went to my office, Mr. Creed came to me about business, and also Mr. Carter, my old Cambridge friend, came to give me a visit, and I did give them a morning draught in my study. So to the office, and from thence to dinner with Mr. Wivell at the Hoop Tavern, where we had Mr. Shepley, Talbot, Adams, Mr. Chaplin, and Osborne, and our dinner given us by Mr. Adey and another, Mr. Wine, the King's fishmonger. Good sport with Mr. Talbot, who eats no sort of fish, and there was nothing else till we sent for a neat's tongue. From thence to Whitehall, where I found my Lord, who had an organ set up to-day in his dining-room, but it seems an ugly one, in the form of Bridewell. Thence I went to Sir Harry Wright's, where my Lord was busy at cards, and so I staid below with Mrs. Carter and Evans, who did give me a lesson upon the lute, till he came down. And having talked with him at the door about his late business of money, I went to my father's and staid late, talking with my father about my sister Paul's coming to live with me, if she would come, and be as a servant, which my wife did seem to be pretty willing to do to-day. And he seems to take it very well, and intends to consider of it. Home and to bed. 10th. Up early, Sir William Batten and I to make up an account of the wages of the officers and mariners at sea, ready to present to the Committee of Parliament this afternoon. Afterwards came the Treasurer and Comptroller, and sat all the morning with us till the business was done. So we broke up, leaving the thing to be wrote over fair, and carried to Trinity House for Sir William Batten's hand. When staying very long, I found, as appointed, the Treasurer and Comptroller at Whitehall, and so we went with a foul copy to the Parliament House, where we met with Sir Thomas Clarges and Mr. Spry, and after we had given them good satisfaction, we parted. The Comptroller and I to the Coffee House, where he shewed me the state of his case, how the King did owe him about £6,000. But I do not see great likelihood for them to be paid, since they begin already in Parliament to dispute the paying of the just sea debts, which were already promised to be paid, and will be the undoing of thousands if they be not paid. So to Whitehall to look, but could not find Mr. Fox. And then to Mr. Moore at Mr. Crew's, but missed of him also. So to Paul's Churchyard, and there bought Montelion, which this year do not prove so good as the last was. So after reading it, I burnt it. After reading of that and the Comedy of the Rump, which is also very silly, I went to bed. This night going home, Will and I bought a goose. 11th, Lord's Day. This morning I went to Sir W. Batten's about going to Deptford to-morrow, and so eating some hog's pudding of my lady's making, of the hog that I saw fattening the other day at her house, he and I went to church into our new gallery, the first time it was used, and it not being yet quite finished. There came after us Sir W. Pen, Mr. Davis, and his eldest son. There being no woman this day, we sat in the foremost pew, and behind us our servants, and I hope it will not always be so, it not being handsome for our servants to sit so equal with us. This day also did Mr. Mills begin to read all the Common Prayer, which I was glad of. Home to dinner, and then walked to Whitehall, it being very cold and foul and rainy weather. I found my Lord at home, and after giving him an account of some business, I returned and went to my father's, where I found my wife, and there we supped, and Dr. Thomas Pepys, who my wife told me after I was come home, that he had told my brother Thomas that he loved my wife so well, that if she had a child he would never marry, but leave all that he had to my child. And after supper we walked home, my little boy carrying a link, and Will leading my wife. So home and to prayers and to bed. I should have said that before I got to my Lord's this day, I went to Mr. Fox's at Whitehall, when I first saw his lady, formerly Mrs. Elizabeth Whittle, whom I had formerly a great opinion of, and did make an anagram or two upon her name when I was a boy. She proves a very fine lady, and mother to fine children. To day I agreed with Mr. Fox about my taking of the £4,000 of him that the King had given my Lord. 12th. Lay long in bed to day. Sir William Batten went this morning to Deptford to pay off the Wolf. Mr. Comptroller and I sat a while at the office to do business, and thence I went with him to his house in Lime Street, a fine house, and where I never was before, and from thence by coach, setting down his sister at the New Exchange, to Westminster Hall, where first I met with Jack Spicer, and agreed with him to help me to tell money this afternoon. Hence to De Cret's, where I saw my Lord's picture finished, which do please me very well. So back to the Hall, where by appointment I met the Comptroller, and with him and 3 or 4 Parliament men I dined at Heaven, and after dinner called at Will's on Jack Spicer, and took him to Mr. Fox's, who saved me the labour of telling me the money by giving me £3,000 by consent. The other £1,000 I am to have on Thursday next, which I carried by coach to the Exchequer, and put it up in a chest in Spicer's office. From thence walked to my father's, where I found my wife, who had been with my father to day, buying of a tablecloth and a dozen of napkins of diaper, the first that have I bought in my life. My father and I took occasion to go forth, and went and drank at Mr. Standing's, and there discoursed seriously about my sister's coming to live with me, which I have much mind for her good to have, and yet I am much afeard of her ill nature. Coming home again, he and I, and my wife, my mother, and Pall, went all together into the little room, and there I told her plainly what my mind was, to have her come not as a sister in any respect, but as a servant, which she promised me that she would, and with many thanks did weep for joy, which did give me and my wife some content and satisfaction. So by coach home and to bed. The last night I should have mentioned how my wife and I were troubled all night with the sound of drums in our ears, which in the morning we found to be Mr. Davis's Jack. But not knowing the cause of its going all night, I understand to day that they have had a great feast to day. 13th. Early going to my Lord's, I met with Mr. Moore, who was going to my house, and indeed I found him to be a most careful, painful, and able man in business, and took him by water to the wardrobe, and shewed him all the house, and indeed there is a great deal of room in it, but very ugly, till my Lord hath bestowed great cost upon it. So to the Exchequer, and there took Spicer and his fellow clerks to the Dog Tavern, and did give them a peck of oysters, and so home to dinner, where I found my wife making of pies and tarts to try her oven with, which she has never yet done, but not knowing the nature of it, did heat it too hot, and so a little overbake her things, but knows how to do better another time. At home all the afternoon. At night made up my accounts of my sea expenses, in order to my clearing off my impress bill of £30, which I had in my hands at the beginning of my voyage, which I intend to shew to my Lord to-morrow. To bed. 14th. Office day. But this day was the first that we do begin to sit in the afternoon, and not in the forenoon, and therefore I went into Cheapside to Mr. Beecham's the goldsmith, to look out a piece of plate to give Mr. Fox from my Lord, for his favour about the £4,000, and did choose a gilt tankard. So to Paul's Churchyard, and bought Cornelianum Dolium. So home to dinner, and after that to the office till late at night, and so Sir W. Pen the Comptroller and I to the Dolphin, where we found Sir W. Batten, who is seldom a night from hence, and there we did drink a great quantity of sack, and did tell many merry stories, and in good humours we were all. So home and to bed. 15th. To Westminster, and it being very cold upon the water, I went all alone to the Sun, and drank a draught of mulled white wine, and so to Mr. De Cret's, whither I sent for J. Spicer, to appoint him to expect me this afternoon at the office, with the other £1,000 from Whitehall. And here we stayed, and did see him give some finishing touches to my Lord's picture. So at last it is complete to my mind, and I leave mine with him to copy out another for himself, and took the original by a porter with me to my Lord's, where I found my Lord within, and stayed, hearing him and Mr. Child playing upon my Lord's new organ, the first time I ever heard it. My Lord did this day show me the King's picture, which was done in Flanders, that the King did promise my Lord before he ever saw him, and that we did expect to have had at sea before the King came to us. But it came but to-day, and indeed it is the most pleasant and the most like him that ever I saw picture in my life. As dinner was coming on table, my wife came to my Lord's, and I got her carried in to my Lady, who took physic to-day, and was just now hiring of a French maid that was with her, and they could not understand one another till my wife came to interpret. Here I did leave my wife to dine with my Lord, the first time he ever did take notice of her as my wife, and did seem to have a just esteem for her, and did myself walk homewards, hearing that Sir W. Pen was gone before in a coach, to overtake him, and with much ado at last did, in Fleet Street, and there I went in to him, and there was Sir Arnold Brames, and we all three to Sir W. Batten's to dinner, he having a couple of servants married to-day. And so there was a great number of merchants and others of good quality on purpose after dinner to make an offering, which when dinner was done we did, and I did give 10s. And no more, though I believe most of the rest did give more, and did believe that I did so too. From thence to Whitehall again by water to Mr. Fox, and by 2 porters carried away the other £1000. He was not within himself, but I had it of his kinsman, and did give him £4, and other servants something, but whereas I did intend to have given Mr. Fox himself a piece of plate of £50, I was demanded £100 for the fee of the office at 6d. a pound, at which I was surprised. But however I did leave it there till I speak with my Lord. So I carried it to the Exchequer, where at Will's I found Mr. Spicer, and so lodged it at his office with the rest. From thence, after a pot of ale at Will's, I took boat in the dark, and went for all that to the Old Swan, and so to Sir William Batten's, and leaving some of the gallants at cards, I went home, where I found my wife much satisfied with my Lord's discourse and respect to her. And so after prayers to bed. 16th. Up early to my father's, where by appointment Mr. Moore came to me, and he and I to the Temple, and thence to Westminster Hall, to speak with Mr. William Montague about his looking upon the title of those lands, which I do take as security for £3000 of my Lord's money. That being done, Mr. Moore and I parted, and in the hall I met with Mr. Fauntleroy, my old acquaintance, whom I had not seen a long time, and he and I to the Swan, and in discourse he seems to be wise and say little, though I know things are changed against his mind. Thence home by water, where my father, Mr. Snow, and Mr. Moore did dine with me. After dinner Mr. Snow and I went up together to discourse about the putting out of £80 to a man who lacks the money and would give me £15 per annum for 8 years for it, which I did not think profit enough, and so he seemed to be disappointed by my refusal of it, but I would not now part with my money easily. He seems to do it as a great favour to me to offer to come in upon a way of getting of money, which they call bottomry, which I do not yet understand, but do believe there may be something in it of great profit. After we were parted I went to the office, and there we sat all the afternoon, and at night we went to a barrel of oysters at Sir W. Batten's, and so home, and I to the setting of my papers in order, which did keep me up late. So to bed. 17th. In the morning to Whitehall, where I inquired at the Privy Seal Office for a form for a nobleman to make one his chaplain, but I understanding that there is not any, I did draw up one, and so to my Lord's, and there I did give him it to sign for Mr. Turner to be his first chaplain. I did likewise get my Lord to sign my last sea accounts, so that I am even to this day when I have received the balance of Mr. Creed. I dined with my Lady and my Lady Pickering, where her son John dined with us, who do continue a fool as he ever was since I knew him. His mother would fain marry him to get a portion for his sister Betty, but he will not hear of it. Hither came Major Hart this noon, who tells me that the regiment is now disbanded, and that there is some money coming to me for it. I took him to my Lord to Mr. Crew's, and from thence with Mr. Shepley and Mr. Moore to the Devil Tavern, and there we drank. So home, and wrote letters by the post. Then to my lyre viol, and to bed. 18th, Lord's day. In the morning to our own church, where Mr. Powell, a crook-legged man that went formerly with me to Paul's school, preached a good sermon. In the afternoon to our own church, and my wife with me, the first time that she and my Lady Batten came to sit in our new pew, and after sermon my Lady took us home, and there we supped with her and Sir W. Batten and Pen, and were much made of. The first time that ever my wife was there. So home and to bed. 19th, Office day. After we had done a little at the office this morning, I went with the Treasurer in his coach to Whitehall, and in our way, in discourse, to find him a very good-natured man. And talking of those men who now stand condemned for murdering the King, he says that he believes that, if the law would give leave, the King is a man of so great compassion that he would wholly acquit them. Going to my Lord's I met with Mr. Shepley, and so he and I to the Sun, and I did give him a morning draught of muscadine. and so to see my Lord's picture at Decret's, and he says it is very like him, and I say so too. After that to Westminster Hall, and there hearing that Sir W. Batten was at the Leg in the Palace, I went thither, and there dined with him, and some of the Trinity House men, who had obtained something to day at the House of Lords concerning the Ballast Office. After dinner I went by water to London to the Globe in Cornhill, and there did choose 2 pictures to hang up in my house, which my wife did not like when I came home, and so I sent the picture of Paris back again. To the office, where we sat all the afternoon till night. So home, and there came Mr. Beauchamp to me with the gilt tankard, and I did pay him for it £20. So to my music, and sat up late at it, and so to bed, leaving my wife to sit up till 2 o'clock, that she may call the wench up to wash. 20th. About 2 o'clock my wife wakes me and comes to bed, and so both to sleep and the wench to wash. I rose and with Will to my Lord's by land, it being a very hard frost, the first we have had this year. There I staid with my Lord and Mr. Shepley, looking over my Lord's accounts, and to set matters straight between him and Shepley, and he did commit the viewing of these accounts to me, which was a great joy to me to see that my Lord do look upon me as one to put trust in. Hence to the organ, where Mr. Child and one Mr. Mackworth, who plays finely upon the violin, were playing, and so we played till dinner, and then dined, where my Lord in a very good humour and kind to me. After dinner to the Temple, where I met Mr. Moore and discoursed with him about the business of putting out my Lord's £3000, and that done, Mr. Shepley and I to the new playhouse near Lincoln's Inn Fields, which was formerly Gibbon's tennis court, where the play of Beggar's Bush was newly begun, and so we went in and saw it. It was well acted, and here I saw for the first time one Moon, who is said to be the best actor in the world, lately come over with the King, and indeed it is the finest playhouse, I believe, that ever was in England. From thence, after a pot of ale with Mr. Shepley at a house hard by, I went by link home, calling a little by the way at my father's, and my uncle Fenner's, where all pretty well, and so home, where I found the house in a washing pickle, and my wife in a very joyful condition, when I told her that she is to see the Queen next Thursday, which puts me in mind to say that this morning I found my Lord in bed late, he having been with the King, Queen, and Princess at the Cockpit all night, where General Monk treated them, and after supper a play, where the King did put a great affront upon Singleton's music, he bidding them stop, and bade the French music play, which, my Lord says, do much outdo all ours. But while my Lord was rising, I went to Mr. Fox's, and there did leave the gilt tankard for Mrs. Fox, and then to the counting house to him, who hath invited me and my wife to dine with him on Thursday next, and so to see the Queen and Princesses. 21st. Lay long in bed. This morning my cousin Thomas Pepys, the turner, sent me a cup of lignum vitae, for a token. This morning my wife and I went to Paternoster Row, and there we bought some green watered moira for a morning waistcoat, and after that we went to Mr. Cade's to choose some pictures for our house. After that my wife went home, and I to Pope's Head, and bought me an agate hafted knife, which cost me 5s. So home to dinner, and so to the office all the afternoon, and at night to my violin, the first time that I have played on it since I came to this house, in my dining room, and afterwards to my lute there, and I took much pleasure to have the neighbours come forth into the yard to hear me. So down to supper, and sent for the barber, who staid so long with me that he was locked into the house, and we were fain to call up Griffith to let him out. So up to bed, leaving my wife to wash herself, and to do other things against to-morrow to go to court. 22nd. This morning came the carpenters to make me a door at the other side of my house, going into the entry, which I was much pleased with. At noon my wife and I walked to the Old Exchange, and there she bought her a white whisk, and put it on, and I a pair of gloves, and so we took coach for Whitehall, to Mr. Fox's, where we found Mrs. Fox within, and an alderman of London paying £1,000, or £1,500 in gold upon the table for the King, which was the most gold that ever I saw together in my life. Mr. Fox came in presently, and did receive us with a great deal of respect, and then did take my wife and I to the Queen's presence chamber, where he got my wife placed behind the Queen's chair, and I got into the crowd, and by the Queen and the 2 Princesses came to dinner. The Queen a very little plain old woman, and nothing more in her presence in any respect nor garb than any ordinary woman. The Princess of Orange I had often seen before. The Princess Henrietta is very pretty, but much below my expectation, and her dressing of herself with her hair frizzed short up to her ears did make her seem so much the less to me. But my wife standing near her with 2 or 3 black patches on and well dressed, did seem to me much handsomer than she. Dinner being done, we went to Mr. Fox's again, where many gentlemen dined with us, a most princely dinner, all provided for me and my friends, but I bringing none but myself and wife, he did call the company to help to eat up so much good victuals. At the end of dinner my Lord Sandwich's health was drunk, in the gilt tankard that I did give to Mrs. Fox the other day. After dinner I had notice given me by Will, my man, that my Lord did inquire for me, so I went to find him, and met him and the Duke of York in a coach going towards Charing Cross. I endeavoured to follow them, but could not, so I returned to Mr. Fox, and after much kindness and good discourse we parted from thence. I took coach for my wife and me homewards, and I alighted at the Maypole in the Strand, and sent my wife home. I to the new playhouse, and saw part of the Traitor, a very good tragedy. Mr. Moon did act the traitor very well. So to my Lord's, and sat there with my Lady a great while talking. Among other things, she took occasion to inquire, by Madam Dury's late discourse with her, how I did treat my wife's father and mother. At which I did give her a good account, and she seemed to be very well opinioned of my wife. From thence to Whitehall at about 9 at night, and there, with Lord the Page that went with me, we could not get out of Henry the Eighth's gallery into the further part of the boarded gallery, where my Lord was walking with my Lord Ormond, and we had a key of Sir S. Morland's, but all would not do. Till at last by knocking, Mr. Harrison the doorkeeper did open us the door. And after some talk with my Lord about getting a catch to carry my Lord St. Albans' goods to France, I parted and went home on foot, it being very late and dirty, and so weary to bed. 23rd. This morning standing looking upon the workmen doing of my new door to my house, there comes Captain Strahan the Scot, to whom the King has given half of the money that the 2 ships lately sold do bring, and he would needs take me to the Dolphin, and give me a glass of ale and a peck of oysters, he and I. He did talk much what he is able to advise the King for good husbandry in his ships, as by ballasting them with lead ore, and many other tricks. But I do believe that he is a knowing man in sea business. Home and dined, and in the afternoon to the office, where till late, and that being done Mr. Creed did come to speak with me, and I took him to the Dolphin, where there was Mr. Pierce the purser, and his wife, and some friends of theirs. So I did spend a crown upon them behind the bar, they being akin to the people of the house, and this being the house where Mr. Pierce was apprentice. After they were gone, Mr. Creed and I spent an hour in looking over the account which he do intend to pass in our office for his lending moneys, which I did advise about, and approve or disapprove of, as I saw cause. After an hour being serious at this, we parted about 11 o'clock at night. So I home and to bed, leaving my wife and the maid at their linen to get up. 24th. To my Lord's, where after I had done talking with him, Mr. Townsend, Rumble, Blackburn, Creed, and Shepley and I to the Rhenish wine house, and there I did give them 2 quarts of wormwood wine. And so we broke up. So we parted, and I and Mr. Creed to Westminster Hall, and looked over a book or two, and so to my Lord's, where I dined with my Lady, there being Mr. Child and Mrs. Beaufort, who are never absent at dinner there, under pretence of a wooing. From thence I to Mr. de Cretz, and did take away my Lord's picture, which is now finished for me, and I paid £3 10s. for it, and the frame, and am well pleased with it and the price. So carried it home by water, Will being with me. At home, and had a fire made in my closet, and put my papers and books and things in order. And that being done, I fell to entering these 2 good songs of Mr. Law's, Help, help, O help, and O God of Heaven and Hell, in my song book, to which I have got Mr. Child to set the bass to the theorbo, and that done to bed. 25th, Lord's day. In the forenoon I alone to our church, and after dinner I went and ranged about to many churches, among the rest to the Temple, where I heard Dr. Wilkins a little, late Master of Trinity in Cambridge. That being done to my father's to see my mother, who is troubled much with the stone, and that being done I went home, where I had a letter brought me from my Lord to get a ship ready to carry the Queen's things over to France, she being to go within 5 or 6 days. So to supper and to bed. 26th, Office day. To it all the morning, and dined at home, where my father come and dined with me, who seems to take much pleasure to have a son that is neat in his house. I being now making my new door into the entry, which he do please himself much with. After dinner to the office again, and there till night. And that being done, the Comptroller and I to the Mitre to a glass of wine, when we fell into a discourse of poetry, and he did repeat some verses of his own making, which were very good. Home, there hear that my Lady Batten had given my wife a visit, the first that ever she made her, which pleased me exceedingly. So after supper to bed. 27th, to Whitehall, where I found my Lord gone abroad to the Wardrobe, whither he do now go every other morning, and do seem to resolve to understand and look after the business himself. From thence to Westminster Hall, and in King Street, there being a great stop of coaches, there was a falling out between a drayman and my Lord Chesterfield's coachman, and one of his footmen killed. At the Hall I met with Mr. Creed, and he and I to Hell to drink our morning draught, and so to my Lord's again, where I found my wife, and she and I dined with him and my Lady, and great company of my Lord's friends, and my Lord did show us great respect. Soon as dinner was done, my wife took her leave, and went with Mr. Blackburn and his wife to London, to a christening of a brother's child of his on Tower Hill, and I to a play, The Scornful Lady, And that being done, I went homewards, and met Mr. Moore, who had been at my house, and took him to my father's, and we three to Standing's to drink. Here Mr. Moore told me how the House had this day voted the King to have all the excise for ever. This day I do also hear that the Queen's going to France is stopped, which do like me well, because then the King will be in town the next month, which is my month again at the Privy Seal. From thence home, where when I come I do remember that I did leave my boy Wainman at Whitehall, with order to stay there for me in the court, at which I was much troubled. But about 11 o'clock at night the boy came home well, and so we all to bed. 28th. This morning went to Whitehall to my Lord's, where Major Hart did pay me £23 14s. 9d. due to me upon my pay in my Lord's troop at the time of our disbanding, which is a great blessing to have without taking any law in the world for. But now I must put an end to any hopes of getting any more, so that I bless God for this. From thence with Mr. Shepley and Pinkney to the Sun, and did give them a glass of wine and a peck of oysters, for joy of my getting this money. So home, where I found that Mr. Creed had sent me the £11 5s. That is due to me upon the remains of account for my sea business, which is also so much clear money to me, and my bill of imprest for £30 is also cleared, so that I am wholly clear as to the sea in all respects. To the office, and was there till late at night, and among the officers to hear that they may have our salaries allowed by the Treasurer, which do make me very glad, and praise God for it. Home to supper, and Mr. Hayter supped with me, whom I did give order to take up my money of the Treasurer to-morrow, if it can be had. So to bed. 29th. In the morning, seeing a great deal of foul water come into my parlour, from under the partition between me and Mr. Davis, I did step thither to him, and tell him of it, and he did seem very ready to have it stopped, and did also tell me how thieves did attempt to rob his house last night, which do make us all afraid. This noon, I being troubled that the workmen that I have to do my door were called to Mr. Davis's away, I sent for them, where Mr. Davis sent to inquire a reason of, and I did give him a good one, that they were come on purpose to do some work with me that they had already begun, with which he was well pleased, and I glad, being unwilling to anger them. In the afternoon Sir W. Batten and I met, and did sell the ship Church for £440, and we asked £391, and that being done I went home, and Dr. Petty came to me about Mr. Barlow's money, and I being a little troubled to be so importuned before I had received it, and that they would have it stopped in Mr. Fenn's hands, I did force the Doctor to go fetch the letter of attorney that he had to receive it, only to make him some labour, which he did bring, and Mr. Hales came along with him from the Treasury, with my money for the first quarter, Michaelmas last, that ever I received for this employment. So I paid the Doctor £25, and had £62 10s. For myself, and £7 10s. To myself also for Will's salary, which I do intend yet to keep for myself. With this my heart is much rejoiced, and do bless Almighty God, that he is pleased to send so sudden and unexpected payment of my salary so soon after my great disbursements, so that now I am worth £200 again. In a great ease of mind and spirit I fell about the auditing of Mr. Shepley's last accounts with my Lord, by my Lord's desire, and about that I sat till 12 o'clock at night, till I began to doze, and so to bed, with my heart praising God for his mercy to us. 30th. Office day. To the office, where Sir G. Carteret did give us an account how Mr. Holland do intend to prevail with the Parliament to try his project of discharging the seamen all at present by ticket, and so promise interest to all men that will lend money upon them at 8 per cent, for so long as they are unpaid, whereby he do think to take away the growing debt, which do now lie upon the kingdom for lack of present money to discharge the seamen. But this we are troubled at, as some diminution to us. I having 2 barrels of oysters at home, I caused one of them and some wine to be brought to the inner room in the office, and there the principal officers did go and eat them. So we sat till noon, and then to dinner, and to it again in the afternoon till night. At home I sent for Mr. Hayter, and broke the other barrel with him, and did afterwards sit down discoursing of sea terms to learn of him, and he being gone I went up and sat till 12 at night again, to make an end of my Lord's accounts, as I did the last night, which at last I made a good end of, and so to bed. End of November. December 1660. December 1st. This morning, observing some things to be laid up not as they should be by the girl, I took a broom and basted her till she cried extremely, which made me vexed. But before I went out I left her appeased. So to Whitehall, where I found Mr. Moore attending for me at the Privy Seal, but nothing to do to-day. I went to my Lord St. Albans' lodgings, and found him in bed, talking to a priest (he looked like one) that leaned along over the side of the bed, and there I desired to know his mind about making the catch stay longer, which I got ready for him the other day. He seems to be a fine civil gentleman. To my Lord's, and did give up my audit of his accounts, which I had been then 2 days about, and was well received by my Lord. I dined with my Lord and Lady, and we had a venison pasty. Mr. Shepley and I went into London, and calling upon Mr. Pinkney, the goldsmith, he took us to the tavern, and gave us a pint of wine, and there fell into our company old Mr. Flower, and another gentleman, who tell us how a Scotch knight was killed basely the other day at the Fleece in Covent Garden, where there had been a great many formerly killed. So to Paul's Churchyard, and there I took the little man at Mr. Curtin's and Mr. Shepley to Ringstead's at the Star, and after a pint of wine I went home, my brain somewhat troubled with so much wine, and after a letter or two by the post I went to bed. 2nd Lord's day. My head not very well, and my body out of order by last night's drinking, which is my great folly. To church, and Mr. Mills made a good sermon. So home to dinner. My wife and I all alone to a leg of mutton, the sauce of which being made sweet, I was angry at it, and eat none, but only dined upon the marrow bone that we had beside. To church in the afternoon, and after sermon took Tom Fuller's Church History, and read over Henry the Eighth's life in it, and so to supper and to bed. 3rd. This morning I took a resolution to rise early in the morning, and so I rose by candle, which I have not done all this winter, and spent my morning in fiddling till time to go to the office, where Sir G. Carteret did begin again discourse on Mr. Holland's proposition, which the King do take very ill, and so Sir George, in lieu of that, do propose that the seamen should have half in ready money, and tickets for the other half, to be paid in 3 months after, which we judge to be very practicable. After office home to dinner, where come in my cousin Snow by chance, and I had a very good capon to dinner. So to the office till night, and so home. And then come Mr. Davis of Deptford, the first time that ever he was at my house, and after him Monsieur L'Impertinent, who is to go to Ireland to morrow, and so came to take his leave of me. They both found me under the barber's hand, but I had a bottle of good sack in the house, and so made them very welcome. Mr. Davis sat with me a good while after the other was gone, talking of his hard usage, and of the endeavour to put him out of his place in the time of the late Commissioners, and he do speak very highly of their corruption. After he was gone, I fell a reading Cornelianum Dolium till 11 o'clock at night with great pleasure, and after that to bed. 4th. To Whitehall, to Sir G. Carteret's chamber, where all the officers met, and so we went up to the Duke of York, and he took us into his closet, and we did open to him our project of stopping the growing charge of the fleet, by paying them in hand one moiety, and the other 4 months hence. This he do like, and we returned by his order to Sir G. Carteret's chamber, and there we did draw up this design in order to be presented to the Parliament. From thence I to my Lord's, and dined with him, and told him what we had done to day. Sir Tom Crew dined with my Lord to day, and we were very merry with Mrs. Beaufort, who dined there still, as she has always done lately. After dinner Sir Tom and my Lady to the playhouse to see The Silent Woman. I home by water, and with Mr. Hayter in my chamber all alone, he and I did put this morning's design into order, which being done I did carry it to Sir W. Batten, where I found some gentlemen with him, Sir W. Pen among the rest, pretty merry with drink, playing at cards, and there I staid looking upon them till 1 o'clock in the morning. And so Sir W. Pen and I went away, and I to bed. This day the Parliament voted that the bodies of Oliver, Ireton, Bradshaw, etc., should be taken up out of their graves in the Abbey, and drawn to the gallows, and there hanged and buried under it, which methinks did trouble me that a man of so great courage as he was should have that dishonour, though otherwise he might deserve it enough. 5th. This morning the proposal which I wrote the last night I showed to the officers this morning, and was well liked of, and I wrote it fair for Sir G. Carteret to show to the King, and so it is to go to the Parliament. I dined at home, and after dinner I went to the new theatre, and there I saw The Merry Wives of Windsor acted, the humours of the country gentleman and the French doctor very well done, but the rest but very poorly, and Sir J. Falstaff as bad as any. From thence to Mr. Will Montague's chamber, to have sealed some writings to night between Sir R. Parkhurst and myself about my Lord's £2,000, but he not coming I went to my father's, and there found my mother still ill of the stone, and had just newly voided one, which she had let drop into the chimney, and looked and found it to shew it me. From thence home and to bed. 6th. This morning some of the Commissioners of Parliament and Sir W. Batten went to Sir G. Carteret's office here in town, and paid off the chestnut. I carried my wife to Whitefriars, and landed her there, and myself to Whitehall to the Privy Seal, where abundance of pardons to seal, but I was much troubled for it, because that there are no fees now coming for them to me. Thence Mr. Moore and I alone to the Leg in King Street, and dined together on a neat's tongue and udder. From thence by coach to Mr. Crew's to my Lord, who told me of his going out of town to-morrow to settle the militia in Huntingdonshire, and did desire me to lay up a box of some rich jewels and things that there are in it, which I promised to do. After much free discourse with my Lord, who tells me his mind as to his enlarging his family, etc., and desiring me to look him out a master of the horse and other servants, we parted. From thence I walked to Greatorex. He was not within. But there I met with Mr. Jonas Moore, and took him to the Five Bells, and drank a glass of wine, and left him. To the Temple, when Sir R. Parkhurst, as was intended the last night, did seal the writings, and is to have the £2,000 told to-morrow. From thence by water to Parliament Stairs, and there at an alehouse to Doling, who is suddenly to go into Ireland to venture his fortune. Simmons, who is at a great loss for £200 present money, which I was loath to let him have, though I could now do it, and do love him and think him honest and sufficient, yet loathness to part with money did dissuade me from it. Llewellyn, who was very drowsy from a doze that he had got the last night, Mr. Mount, and several others, among the rest one Mr. Pierce, an army man, who did make us the best sport for songs and stories in a Scotch tone, which he do very well, that ever I heard in my life. I never knew so good a companion in all my observation. From thence to the bridge by water, it being a most pleasant moonshine night, with a waterman who did tell such a company of bawdy stories, how once he carried a lady from Putney in such a night as this, and she bade him lie down by her, which he did, and did give her content, and a great deal more roguery. Home, and found my girl knocking at the door, it being 11 o'clock at night, her mistress having sent her out for some trivial business, which did vex me when I came in, and so I took occasion to go up and to bed in a pet. Before I went forth this morning, one came to me to give me notice that the Justices of Middlesex do meet to-morrow at Hickes Hall, and that I, as one, am desired to be there, but I fear I cannot be there, though I much desire it. 7th. This morning the Judge Advocate Fowler came to see me, and he and I sat talking till it was time to go to the office. To the office, and there stayed till past 12 o'clock, and so I left the Comptroller and Surveyor, and went to Whitehall to my Lord's, where I found my Lord gone this morning to Huntingdon, as he told me yesterday he would. I staid and dined with my Lady, there being Lord the Page's mother there, and dined also with us, and seemed to have been a very pretty woman, and of good discourse. Before dinner I examined Lord in his Latin, and found him a very pretty boy, and gone a great way in Latin. After dinner I took a box of some things of value that my Lord had left for me to carry to the Exchequer, which I did, and left them with my brother Spicer, who also had this morning paid £1,000 for me, by appointment to Sir R. Parkhurst. So to the Privy Seal, where I signed a deadly number of pardons, which do trouble me to get nothing by. Home by water, and there was much pleased to see that my little room is likely to come to be finished soon. I fell a reading Fuller's History of Abbeys, and my wife in Great Cyrus till 12 at night, and so to bed. 8th. To Whitehall to the Privy Seal, and thence to Mr. Pierce's the surgeon, to tell them that I would call by and by to go to dinner. But I going into Westminster Hall, met with Sir G. Carteret and Sir W. Pen, who were in a great fear that we had committed a great error of £100,000 in our late account gone into the Parliament, in making it too little, and so I was fain to send order to Mr. Pierce's to come to my house, and also to leave the key of the chest with Mr. Spicer, wherein my Lord's money is, and went along with Sir W. Pen by water to the office, and there with Mr. Hutchinson we did find that we were in no mistake. And so I went to dinner with my wife and Mr. and Mrs. Pierce the surgeon to Mr. Pierce, the purser, the first time that ever I was at his house, who does live very plentifully and finely. We had a lovely chine of beef, and other good things very complete, and drank a great deal of wine, and her daughter played after dinner upon the virginals, and at night by lantern home again. And Mr. Pierce and his wife being gone home, I went to bed, having drunk so much wine that my head was troubled, and was not very well all night, and the wind I observed was rose exceedingly before I went to bed. 9th, Lord's day. Being called up early by Sir W. Batten, I rose and went to his house, and he told me the ill news that he had this morning from Woolwich, that the Assurance, formerly Captain Holland's ship, and now Captain Stokes's, designed for Guinea, and manned and victualled, was by a gust of wind sunk down to the bottom, 20 men drowned. Sir Williams both went by barge thither to see how things are, and I am sent to the Duke of York to tell him, and by boat with some other company going to Whitehall from the Old Swan, I went to the Duke. And first calling upon Mr. Coventry at his chamber, I went to the Duke's bedside, who had sat up late last night, and lay long this morning, who was much surprised therewith. This being done, I went to chapel, and sat in Mr. Blagrave's pew, and there did sing my part along with another before the King, and with much ease. From thence going to my Lady, I met with a letter from my Lord, which Andrew had been at my house to bring me, and missed me, commanding me to go to Mr. Denham, to get a man to go to him to-morrow to Hinchinbroke. to contrive with him about some alterations in his house, which I did, and got Mr. Kennard. Dined with my lady, and staid all the afternoon with her, and had infinite of talk of all kind of things, especially of beauty of men and women, with which she seems to be much pleased to talk of. From thence at night to Mr. Kennard, and took him to Mr. Denham the surveyor's, where, while we could not speak with him, his chief man, Mr. Cooper, did give us a cup of good sack. From thence with Mr. Kennard to my lady, who is much pleased with him, and after a glass of sack there, we parted, having taken order for a horse or two for him and his servant to be gone to-morrow. So to my father's, where I sat while they were at supper, and I found my mother below stairs, and pretty well. Thence home, where I hear that the Comptroller had some business with me, and with Giffin's lantern I went to him, and there staid in discourse an hour till late, and among other things he showed me a design of his, by the King's making an order of Knights of the Seal, to give an encouragement for persons of honour to undertake the service of the sea, and he had done it with great pains and very ingeniously. So home and to prayers and to bed. 10th. Up exceedingly early to go to the Comptroller. But he not being up, and it being a very fine bright moonshine morning, I went and walked all alone 20 turns in Cornhill, from Gracious Street corner to the Stocks and back again, from 6 o'clock till past 7, so long that I was weary. And going to the Comptroller's thinking to find him ready, I found him gone, at which I was troubled, and being weary went home, and from thence with my wife by water to Westminster, and put her to my father Bowyer's, they being newly come out of the country, but I could not stay there, but left her there. I to the Hall, and there met with Colonel Slingsby. So hearing that the Duke of York is gone down this morning, to see the ship sunk yesterday at Woolwich, he and I returned by his coach to the office, and after that to dinner. After dinner he came to me again, and sat with me at my house, and among other discourse, he told me that it is expected that the Duke will marry the Lord Chancellor's daughter at last, which is likely to be the ruin of Mr. Davis and my Lord Berkeley, who have carried themselves so high against the Chancellor. Sir Chas. Berkeley swearing that he and others had lain with her often, which all believe to be a lie. He and I in the evening to the coffee house in Cornhill, the first time that ever I was there, and I found much pleasure in it, through the diversity of company and discourse. Home and found my wife at my Lady Batten's, and have made a bargain to go see the ship sunk at Woolwich, where both the Sir Williams are still since yesterday, and I do resolve to go along with them. From thence home, and up to bed, having first been into my study, and to ease my mind did go to cast up how my cash stands, and I do find as near as I can that I am worth in money clear £240, for which God be praised. This afternoon there was a couple of men with me, with a book in each of their hands, demanding money for poll money, and I overlooked the book, and saw myself set down Samuel Pepys, gent, 10 shillings for himself, and for his servants 2 shillings, which I did presently pay without any dispute. But I fear I have not escaped so, and therefore I have long ago laid by £10 for them. But I think I am not bound to discover myself. 11th. My wife and I up very early this day, and though the weather was very bad and the wind high, yet my Lady Batten and her maid and we two did go by our barge to Woolwich, my lady being very fearful, where we found both Sir Williams and much other company, expecting the weather to be better, that they might go about weighing up the Assurance, which lies there, poor ship that I have been twice merry in Captain Holland's time, under water. Only the upper deck may be seen, and the masts. Captain Stokes is very melancholy, and being in search for some clothes and money of his, which he says he hath lost out of his cabin, I did the first office of a Justice of Peace to examine a seaman thereupon, but could find no reason to commit him. This last tide the Kingsale was also run aboard and lost her mainmast by another ship, which makes us think it ominous to the Guinea voyage to have 2 of her ships spoilt before they go out. After dinner, my lady being very fearful, she staid and kept my wife there, and I and another gentleman, a friend of Sir W. Pen's, went back in the barge, very merry by the way, as far as Whitehall in her. To the Privy Seal, where I signed many pardons and some few things else. From thence Mr. Moore and I into London, to a tavern near my house, and there we drank and discoursed of ways how to put out a little money to the best advantage. And at present he has persuaded me to put out £250 for £50 per annum for 8 years, and I think I shall do it. Thence home, where I found the wench washing, and I up to my study, and there did make up an even £100, and sealed it to lie by. After that to bed. 12th. Troubled with the absence of my wife. This morning I went, after the Comptroller and I had sat an hour at the office, to Whitehall to dine with my lady, and after dinner to the Privy Seal, and sealed abundance of pardons and little else. From thence to the Exchequer, and did give my mother Bowyer a visit, and her daughters, the first time that I have seen them since I went last to sea. From thence up with J. Spicer to his office, and took £100, and by coach with it as far as my father's, where I called to see them, and my father did offer me 6 pieces of gold, in lieu of £6 that he borrowed of me the other day. But it went against me to take it of him, and therefore did not, though I was afterwards a little troubled that I did not. Thence home and took out this £100, and sealed it up with the other last night, it being the first £200 that ever I saw together of my own in my life, for which God be praised. So to my Lady Batten, and sat an hour or two, and talked with her daughter and people in the absence of her father and mother, and my wife, to pass away the time. After that home, and to bed, reading myself asleep, while the wench sat mending my breeches by my bedside. 13th. All the day long looking upon my workmen, who this day began to paint my parlour. Only at noon my Lady Batten and my wife came home, and so I stepped to my Lady's, where were Sir John Lawson and Captain Holmes, and there we dined, and had very good red wine of my Lady's own making in England. 14th. Also all this day looking upon my workmen. Only met with the Comptroller at the office a little, both forenoon and afternoon, and at night step a little with him to the coffee house, where we light upon very good company, and had very good discourse concerning insects, and their having a generative faculty as well as other creatures. This night in discourse the Comptroller told me, among other persons that were heretofore the principal officers of the Navy, there was one Sir Peter Buck, a clerk of the Acts, of which to myself I was not a little proud. 15th. All day at home looking upon my workmen. Only at noon Mr. Moore came and brought me some things to sign for the Privy Seal, and dined with me. We had 3 eels that my wife and I bought this morning of a man, that cried them about, for our dinner, and that was all I did to day. 16th. In the morning to church, and then dined at home. In the afternoon I to Whitehall, where I was surprised with the news of a plot against the King's person and my Lord Monk's, and that since last night there are about 40 taken up on suspicion. And amongst others it was my lot to meet with Simon Beale, the trumpeter, who took me and Tom Doling into the guard in Scotland Yard, and showed us Major General Overton, where I heard him deny that he is guilty of any such things; but that whereas it is said that he is found to have brought many arms to town, he says it is only to sell them, as he will prove by oath. From thence with Tom Doling and Boston and D. Vines, whom we met by the way, to Price's, and there we drank, and in discourse I learnt a pretty trick, to try whether a woman be a maid or no, by a string going round her head to meet at the end of her nose, which if she be not, will come a great way beyond. Thence to my Lady's, and staid with her an hour or two talking of the Duke of York and his lady, the Chancellor's daughter, between whom, she tells me, that all is agreed, and he will marry her. But I know not how true yet. It rained hard, and my Lady would have had me have the coach, but I would not, but to my father's, where I met my wife, and there supped, and after supper by link home and to bed. 17th. All day looking after my workmen. Only in the afternoon to the office, where both Sir Williams were come from Woolwich, and tell us that, contrary to their expectations, the Assurance is got up, without much damage to her body, only to the goods that she hath within her, which argues her to be a strong good ship. This day my parlour is gilded, which do please me well. 18th. All day at home, without stirring at all, looking after my workmen. 19th. At noon I went and dined with my Lady at Whitehall, and so back again to the office, and after that home to my workmen. This night Mr. Gordon sent me a great chine of beef and half a dozen of tongues. 20th. All day at home with my workmen, that I may get all done before Christmas. This day I hear that the Princess Royal has the small pox. 21st. By water to Whitehall, leaving my wife at Whitefriars, going to my father's, to buy her a muff and mantle. There I signed many things at the Privy Seal, and carried £200 from thence to the Exchequer, and laid it up with Mr. Hales, and afterwards took him and W. Bowyer to the Swan, and drank with them. They told me that this is St. Thomas's day, and that by an old custom, this day the Exchequer men had formerly, and do intend this night, to have a supper, which if I could I promised to come to, but did not. To my Lady's, and dined with her. She told me how dangerously ill the Princess Royal is, and that this morning she was said to be dead. But she hears that she hath married herself to young Jermyn, which is worse than the Duke of York's marrying the Chancellor's daughter, which is now publicly owned. After dinner to the office all the afternoon. At 7 at night I walked through the dirt to Whitehall, to see whether my Lord be come to town, and I found him come and at supper, and I supped with him. He tells me that my aunt at Brampton has voided a great stone, the first time that ever I heard she was troubled therewith, and cannot possibly live long. That my uncle is pretty well, but full of pain still. After supper home and to bed. 22nd. All the morning with my painters, who will make an end of all this day, I hope. At noon I went to the Sun Tavern, on Fish Street Hill, to a dinner of Captain Teddyman's, where was my Lord Inchiquin, who seems to be a very fine person, Sir W. Pen, Captain Cuttance, and one Mr. Lawrence, a fine gentleman now going to Algiers, and other good company, where we had a very fine dinner, good music, and a great deal of wine. We staid here very late, at last Sir W. Pen and I home together, he so overcome with wine that he could hardly go. I was forced to lead him through the streets, and he was in a very merry and kind mood. I home, found my house clear of the workmen, and their work ended, my head troubled with wine, and I very merry went to bed, my head aching all night. 23rd, Lord's day. In the morning to church, where our pew all covered with rosemary and bays. A stranger made a dull sermon. Home, and found my wife and maid with much ado had made shift to spit a great turkey sent me this week from Charles Carter, my old colleague, now minister in Huntingdonshire, but not at all roasted, and so I was fain to stay till 2 o'clock, and after that to church with my wife, and a good sermon there was, and so home. All the evening at my book, and so to supper and to bed. 24th. In the morning to the office, and Commissioner Pett, who seldom comes there, told me that he had lately presented a piece of plate, being a couple of flagons, to Mr. Coventry, but he did not receive them, which also put me upon doing the same too. And so after dinner I went and chose a pair of candlesticks, to be made ready for me at Alderman Backwell's. To the office again in the afternoon till night, and so home, and with the painters till 10 at night, making an end of my house and the arch before my door. And so this night I was rid of them and all other work, and my house was made ready against to-morrow being Christmas Day. This day the Princess Royal died at Whitehall. 25th, Christmas Day. In the morning very much pleased to see my house once more clear of workmen, and to be clean, and indeed it is so far better than it was, that I do not repent of my trouble that I have been at. In the morning to church, where Mr. Mills made a very good sermon. After that home to dinner, where my wife and I and my brother Tom, who this morning came to see my wife's new mantle put on, which do please me very well, to a good shoulder of mutton and a chicken. After dinner to church again, my wife and I, where we had a dull sermon of a stranger, which made me sleep, and so home, and I, before and after supper, to my lute and Fuller's History, at which I stayed all alone in my chamber till 12 at night, and so to bed. 26th. In the morning to Alderman Backwell's for the candlesticks for Mr. Coventry, but they being not done I went away, and so by coach to Mr. Crew's, and there took some money of Mr. Moore's for my Lord, and so to my Lord's, where I found Sir Thomas Bond, whom I never saw before, with a message from the Queen about vessels for the carrying over of her goods, and so with him to Mr. Coventry, and thence to the office, being soundly washed going through the bridge, to Sir William Batten and Pen, the last of whom took physic to-day, and so I went up to his chamber, and there having made an end of the business, I returned to Whitehall by water, and dined with my Lady Sandwich, who at table did tell me how much fault was laid upon Dr. Fraser, and the rest of the doctors, for the death of the Princess. My Lord did dine this day with Sir Henry Wright, in order to his going to sea with the Queen. Thence to my father Bowyer's, where I met my wife, and with her home by water. 27th. In the morning to Alderman Backwell's again, where I found the candlesticks done, and went along with him in his coach to my Lord's, and left the candlesticks with Mr. Shepley. I staid in the garden talking much with my Lord, who do show me much of his love, and do communicate his mind in most things to me, which is my great content. Home and with my wife to Sir W. Batten's to dinner, where much and good company. My wife not very well went home. I staid late there, seeing them play at cards, and so home to bed. This afternoon there came in a strange lord to Sir William Batten's by a mistake, and enters discourse with him, so that we could not be rid of him till Sir Arnold Breames and Mr. Benz and Sir W. Pen fell a drinking to him till he was drunk, and so sent him away. About the middle of the night I was very ill, I think with eating and drinking too much, and so I was forced to call the maid, who pleased my wife and I in her running up and down so innocently in her smock, and vomited in the basin, and so to sleep, and in the morning was pretty well, only got cold, and so had pain, as I used to have. 28th, Office day. There all the morning, dined at home alone with my wife, and so staid within all the afternoon and evening, at my lute with great pleasure, and so to bed with great content. 29th. Within all the morning. Several people to speak with me. Mr. Shepley for £100, Mr. Kennard and Warren the merchant about deals for my Lord. Captain Robert Blake lately come from the Straits about some Florence wine for my Lord, and with him I went to Sir W. Pen, who offering me a barrel of oysters, I took them both home to my house, having by chance a good piece of roast beef at the fire for dinner, and there they dined with me, and sat talking all the afternoon, good company. Thence to Alderman Backwell's, and took a brave state plate and cup in lieu of the candlesticks I had the other day, and carried them by coach to my Lord's, and left them there. And so back to my father's, and saw my mother, and so to my uncle Fenner's, whither my father came to me, and there we talked and drank, and so away. I home with my father, he telling me what bad wives both my cousin Joyces make to their husbands, which I much wondered at. After talking of my sister's coming to me next week, I went home and to bed. 30th, Lord's day. Lay long in bed, and being up, I went with Will to my Lord's, calling in at many churches in my way. There I found Mr. Shepley in his Venetian cap, taking physic in his chamber, and with him I sat till dinner. My Lord dined abroad, and my Lady in her chamber. So Mr. Hettley, Child, and I dined together, and after dinner Mr. Child and I spent some time at the lute. And so promising to prick me some lessons to my Theorbo, he went away to see Henry Laws, who lies very sick. I to the Abbey, and walked there, seeing the great confusion of people that come there to hear the organs. So home, calling in at my father's, but stayed not, my father and mother being both forth. At home I fell a reading of Fuller's Church History till it was late, and so to bed. 31st. At the office all the morning, and after that home, and not staying to dine I went out, and in Paul's Churchyard I bought the play of Henry the Fourth, and so went to the new theatre, only calling at Mr. Crew's, and eat a bit with the people there at dinner, and saw it acted. But my expectation being too great, it did not please me, as otherwise I believe it would, and my having a book, I believe, did spoil it a little. That being done, I went to my Lord's, where I found him private at cards with my Lord Lauderdale and some persons of honour. So Mr. Shepley and I over to Harper's, and there drank a pot or two, and so parted. My boy taking a cat home with him from my Lord's, which Sarah had given him for my wife, we being much troubled with mice. At Whitehall, inquiring for a coach, there was a Frenchman, with one eye, that was going my way, so he and I hired the coach between us, and he set me down in Fenchurch Street. Strange how the fellow, without asking, did tell me all what he was, and how he had ran away from his father and come into England to serve the King, and now going back again. Home and to bed. End of December. End of the Diary of Samuel Pepys, 1660, by Samuel Pepys.